Welcome to your Healing Place podcast with Linda and Mindy. It is our desire to address common concerns of how abortion and faith intersect in order to validate the emotional pain and grief that abortion can bring and give hope that recovery is possible. Jenny, you're here with us again because you were sharing your story about a medically advised abortion and how you struggled with that, a wanted child. I want to, I just want you to talk to us a little bit more about the compounded grief because of that you experienced and what that looked like. And from a biblical view, just help our listeners understand if they had a wanted child, but they felt, even if it wasn't medically advised, but they just felt so much pressure that they really felt like they didn't have anything else they could do. Just tell us about your experience with that.
Uh, what's what I've found to be unique about a medically advised abortion is that you go through all the same feelings. Whether a woman had an abortion in college at 19 because she got pregnant, engaging in sexual activity, whether someone, I have two friends that have been raped, like a date rape situation. I mean, no matter how you get yourself into a situation, good or bad, where you're pregnant, um, if you go through an abortion, there's trauma. There's physical trauma. Just going through the abortion itself, as we know, is very anxiety provoking. They make it sound like it'll be no big deal, but it is painful. Even now with the pill abortion, my concern is people doing those things at home, um, and if they don't have adequate support to go through, having the abortion in their home environment.
Hmm.
So trauma, there's trauma no matter what your story is around why you've chosen abortion. Physical pain, mental anguish, grief. Um, we talk a lot about in our groups about that first feeling. You may be relieved, like right after, you know. Even I kind of woke up from in the recovery room thinking, okay, at least this is done.
It's done.
At least
Yeah.
this is over. It's
That was the
done.
first time.
Yeah, that
What
was the
about the
first
second
time.
time? How did you wake up?
Mm, I don't know how candid I can be on here, but the second time I woke up in the recovery room coming out of it was full anesthesia. I woke up hearing someone screaming and screaming and screaming, I want my baby,"
Mm,
over and over. And as I became more lucid, I realized that was me. And then I
mm.
was so embarrassed, like, oh no, I don't want to upset anybody else. And I look up and all these nurses are around me and they're crying,
Oh,
trying to comfort me. And they're like, don't worry about anybody hearing you. They're just like, it's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, nobody understands. I wanted my son. Like, I didn't want to make him go away. I wanted to make this horrible situation of him being sick go away, you know? And so, yeah, I'll come back to the compounded thing, but probably for maybe close to 10 years. I've had a lot of surgeries since I went through my surgical abortion experiences. But my husband, bless his heart, has been so sweet, whether I wanted him to or not. He will tell people before they take me back, like, can you get me to the recovery room as soon as possible? Because I would wake up from any procedure, um, out of anesthesia, oftentimes crying out for my baby. And a
Mm,
lot of that we don't have control over.
it's
hmm.
Sometimes that's just like
subconscious.
it's
Yeah.
subconscious and involuntary. These are in the early years, I mean, I really hadn't received yet that full healing through Jesus Christ. But that was it was miserable, and that was where, like, one of the places where the PTSD would come up.
Mm.
When you talk about compounded grief, I've had so many women. I may have mentioned this, like, we've recorded before on a similar topic. Well, you shouldn't feel guilty. You have no reason to feel
Right.
guilty.
Doctors told you this
They
was your only choice.
doctors told you. We put
Yep.
doctors on a pedestal, and I'm not saying they're super well educated and we need doctors, but if they say something, we often just do it blindly. And so people were giving me a pass, saying like, I don't understand. Like, why do you even need to do healing or, why do you have this ministry when you're like, you're off the hook, basically, because the doctors
Hmm.
told you to terminate. And my answer to them is all the same feelings that you have if you chose the abortion. In other words, maybe you kind of wanted, and I say that lightly, to have the pregnancy just gone, to be able to go back to college or go back to your life or just make your life easier, right? All the things they tell us that, just have it, it's not a big deal, and you can go back to your life. Um, I have to I have to explain to people that I had all those same feelings too, but I wanted Nathaniel. And I really don't want to trigger anybody by saying this, but as a mother who had a 17-week-old baby in my womb, had been a mother before, I felt him kicking the week before he was moving all
Mm,
around. So to know that I love this baby with all my heart, I wanted him, and he is kicking in my womb, in the gurney, all the way back, getting myself on the operating room table. The child was alive, he was mine, and that I would still make the decision to end his life.
So you still
mm,
felt like
Um,
it was your decision.
yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
I could have gotten off the table at any time.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I guess so.
you could have rejected the
Um,
doctor's advice,
I could have said no,
gone against your husband's wishes.
hmm
Yeah.
But I know that now, and one of the most important things I've had to tell the women at certain times, depending on what they're sharing, is for those of us who are Christians or are maybe becoming a Christian, new Christian, whatever, we have to be careful that if we're working on abortion healing and we're my age in our 50s or 60s, because as we know, a lot of women don't work through this until,
Hmm.
who
Right.
knows, 10, 20, 30, 40 years
Right.
after an abortion. It's really be really careful not to keep looking back at that young woman
Hmm.
through the glasses, the lenses that you wear now as a mature, strong Christian. Maybe
Hmm.
you've become pro-life, maybe you
Hmm.
weren't at the time, but it's
Hmm.
it's I don't think it's fair to look back at that
Mm-mm.
sweet girl. God was there, God knew, he was with her at every moment, and if you've asked, he's forgiven you.
Hmm.
But so here I sit with you today at 53 years old saying, well, now I know that I could have chosen to carry him to term and just let God make the decision.
Hmm. So
Hmm.
true.
Now I know there's something called perinatal hospice, and they would have come alongside me at the end of the pregnancy and walked me through what his end of life would have looked like.
Hmm.
But I didn't know any of that. So don't beat yourself up over resources, support, things you didn't have
And
if you've
fear.
already been through it. And fear. Oh,
Fear
fear's
is
huge.
such is the most common thing that we all have going through abortion, fear of whatever is coming that we don't
Mhm.
know and can't put an answer to or can't see or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I was there was something you were talking about that was just making me think of something else. And so I'm gonna come back to it as soon as it hits my brain again, but it just
Yeah.
kind of I hit the delete button. We'll come
It's
back to
okay.
that.
I just did the same thing.
Yeah, but I wish I could remember what it was.
So in a way, it was easier, maybe the fact that it was a wanted baby, um,
Mhm.
for you to grieve, and yet you call
Yes.
it compounded grief. Um, it's maybe a more acknowledged grief.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that at all?
I feel like it put another layer.
Another
So,
layer, okay?
yeah, when we go through abortion healing, we know we've got to work through things like denial, anger,
Just
uh,
acknowledging there was a baby.
forgiveness. Yeah, just
Yeah,
acknowledging that
yeah.
there was actually a baby, and that we did say yes to letting their life be ended.
Hmm.
And forgiveness. You really need to go through forgiving. A lot of people say yourself, depends on your biblical view of that. Um, but forgiveness is huge. Um, I'm trying to think. I mean,
But the
there's so many
grief is
stages.
still deep.
Grief is really deep.
It's more
Ultimately,
complex. Did you
Hmm.
have two different types of grieving go on? I mean, did you acknowledge, or do you ever, can you look back and go, you know what, I know at this point I kind of grieved um, the fear and, the loss of the child, but at this point I have to grieve the fact that I wanted him and I chose against that. And I mean, did you find yourself doing anything
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, I've never had anybody ask me that question before. And it's it's really true. During the 9 years that I had the little urn of his ashes, and I didn't know where to put them. So they were in my sock drawer, and that always felt wrong. But um, every year I would take them out when the house was empty, go in my closet, and I have this song that's what was his song from the
Mm,
very
Oh,
day one. And I knew it's important to let yourself grieve. Probably more than once a year is good, but that's what I would give
right.
myself. So I would go into my closet and I would just hold that little urn of ashes. I would listen to the
mm,
song and I would tell myself it's okay. It's
Mm,
okay to grieve. So those first 9 years were really so much about I love you. You know, can you forgive me, son? Can you forgive me? I want you back. I made the biggest
mm,
mistake in my life. Like, can I just get you back? Like true grief, I feel like in some ways, like you might have for a baby, that was stillborn or a baby that you got to meet, and then they passed. That was just deep and wide,
mm,
deep and wide. But something shifted when I invited Christ into the process and when I let the ashes go. That was such a big step for me. And
closure.
that's when, yeah, closure. And that's when I kind of switched, Mindy, to realizing, okay, now I know I need to there are books. I need to really get some healing
mhm,
on that everybody else should be walking through too. Like, I think I'm ready finally to move out of just missing him
mm,
and realizing I need to turn more to like my feelings and being healed truly through Christ
mhm,
Jesus. What does the
mhm,
Bible say about how do I work through this with
mhm.
God to get free again?
I
That's
know
really
for
good.
most of us, the hard part about grief is there's the guilt on top of it. So how dare we grieve something that we chose, so
Yeah.
Mhm,
that makes
Yeah.
that grief really hard to access.
Yeah.
Um, so you're saying that even with a medically advised abortion, that was a component that you still feel like there was a choice there. And so there was some guilt there for making that choice.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to go
And I
back
think,
because since I
yeah, go
did
ahead.
make a comment earlier that I forgot my thought. So I want to kind of close or bring that back out just real quick. You said give ourselves permission to look at that girl looking back,
mm,
not with the same lens as we have today, just knowing that she was different than who we are today, I believe
Hmm.
is what you were trying to say. And 100%, I
good.
went through a training for pregnancy center, and in that training there were several women. I didn't tell anybody I had abortion in my past. I wanted to see how I would respond to people talking about it because at that time wasn't like it was in all of our conversations or our news, like it is today. And I just kind of wanted to test my own self, my own healing, and see where I was. And at one point in the training, a lady that I was now very, very good friends with, she said, just making a comment, and she wasn't being critical. She was just more like, how in the world? I just don't understand how anybody can have an abortion. And it really wasn't a judgment statement. It was just working through that understanding because she understands and fully accepts and has never been in that position. Later, at the end of that training, I we all had to share our stories. Of
Mm.
course, that's where I shared, and she just she came up to me afterwards. I felt so bad for her. She goes, "I am so sorry. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings when I said that." I said, "Not at all." I said, "Actually, when I heard you say it, my first thought was, is neither do I understand how I could have an abortion."
Hmm.
And that's what you're talking about because what we know and where we're at today is not that same place that we were back then. And
Mm-mm.
That's a good point.
yeah,
Yeah.
so just to give ourselves grace.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was inspired by the many conversations had through the years with women struggling from the emotional pain associated with abortion. Thank you for allowing us into your healing journey. Subscribe on major platforms where podcasts can be heard. Learn more about virtual abortion recovery healing at www.anevenplace.com. The link is in the show notes.